The air feels heavy, and thunder rolls in the distance. Above, the clouds twist and churn as if alive, filled with a secret energy. In ancient Greece, such storms were never just weather. They were signs, whispers from the heavens. Each rumble was a reminder that Zeus, king of the gods, was watching. For mortals, storms were not only rain, but the voice of divine power. They lit fires, built temples, and prayed for his favor. They remembered well the tales of those who forgot respect. But what happens when reverence fades? When gods themselves rise in rebellion against their king? When mortals, blinded by pride, defy the order of Olympus? These are the moments when thunder became judgment. When Zeus revealed not only his might, but the fragile balance of the world. Tonight, we step into stories of pride and defiance, tales of storms, justice, and the lessons hidden within them. This is the wrath of Zeus, when gods and mortals dared to test him. And when they learned the true cost of defiance, close your eyes and imagine a world before order, before balance, before the rhythm of earth and sky. In those first days of myth, the universe was shaped not by harmony, but by conflict. Chaos gave birth to the Titans, rulers of an age where power was raw, untamed, and merciless. Among them was Kronos, who seized the throne by overthrowing his father, Uranus. But Kronos lived in fear, haunted by a prophecy that his own child would one day rise against him. To prevent this fate, he swallowed each of his children at birth, locking them inside his body. Rhea, his wife, could not bear to lose her youngest child. She wrapped the stone in cloth, tricking Kronos into swallowing it instead. The infant Zeus was hidden away on the island of Crete, far from his father's reach. In a secret cave, nymphs cared for him with honey and milk, or so the stories say. Others tell of Amalthea, the goat who nurtured Zeus with her gift of life. To hide his cries, the Curetes clashed their shields, drowning out the sound of the child. Zeus grew strong in body and spirit. Learning the secrets of earth, sea, and sky, he carried within him a sense of justice. Unlike his father, who ruled only by fear, when the time was right, Zeus returned to challenge Kronos. With the help of Metis, goddess of wisdom, he gave Kronos a potion. The drink forced Kronos to release the children he had swallowed long ago. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon emerged, free at last. Together, they rose against the Titans in the great war called the Titanomachy. For 10 years, the battle shook the cosmos. Mountains trembled and seas roared. The young gods, guided by Zeus, triumphed at last. The Titans were cast down, and a new order of gods was born. At the center of this order stood Zeus, crowned as king of heaven and earth. His throne on Mount Olympus became the seat of divine authority. His thunderbolt, forged by the Cyclopes, became the symbol of justice and power. Yet Zeus did not rule alone, but shared dominion with his siblings. Poseidon took the seas, Hades the underworld, and Zeus the wide sky. The sisters Hera, Demeter, and Hestia joined him, forming the Olympian family. For mortals, Zeus was more than a stormbringer. He was guardian of oaths, protector of guests, and upholder of justice. Every promise sworn beneath the stars carried his presence. The rise of Zeus marked the end of the Titans' reign and the dawn of a new age. An age where gods and mortals lived in a fragile balance. Yet even as he reigned supreme, Zeus knew defiance was never far away, for pride and ambition lived in the hearts of gods and mortals alike. The storm had found its master, and the heavens their king. The war was over. The Titans were cast down, and the thrones of Olympus belonged to the younger gods. For Zeus, victory was not only triumph, it marked the beginning of a heavier burden. To conquer was one thing, But to rule meant carrying the weight of heaven, earth, and sea. From his seat on Mount Olympus, Zeus gazed upon the world below. He saw mortals building temples, offering prayers, and lighting fires in his name. The seas stretched endlessly. Mountains pierced the clouds, and skies opened without end. Each part of creation was bound together by invisible threads, fragile and easily broken. Zeus understood that it was his duty to keep those threads unbroken. He divided power among his siblings, but balance remained his own responsibility. Poseidon ruled the seas, fierce and unpredictable. Hades claimed the underworld, silent and shadowed. Demeter tended the harvests, and Hera became queen of gods, guardian of marriage and loyalty. Each had their domain, but all looked to Zeus for guidance. Leadership was no easy task, for mortals were restless in heart and mind. They honored the gods, but longed for freedom, power, and control of their own fate. This struggle between reverence and ambition became Zeus's greatest challenge. At times, he was a protector, blessing harvests and guiding kings with wisdom. At other times, he was a stern judge, reminding mortals that the gods could not be forgotten. The thunderbolt he carried was both a symbol of fear and a mark of justice. Yet even on Olympus, harmony was fragile and often threatened. Hera, wise and fiery, clashed with Zeus more than once. Poseidon, proud and restless, tested his brother's authority. Even the minor gods longed for recognition and stirred unrest. It fell to Zeus to steady Olympus when rivalry and jealousy flared. Some nights, he gazed at the stars and thought of creation's vastness. He knew he was more than a king of storms. He was the guardian of order. Mortals saw him as unshakable, but Zeus knew authority was fragile. His wrath was not blind rage, but the voice of balance and justice. The burden of rule shaped Zeus into more than the wielder of thunder. He became the keeper of laws, the guardian of promises, and the center of harmony. The throne was not a gift, but a constant test demanding vigilance. His greatest struggles were not monsters or giants, but pride and defiance. Both gods and mortals carried ambition in their hearts. Zeus's burden was to keep them balanced, to hold creation on the edge of order. The thunder rolling across the heavens carried not only fear, but a voice. It was the voice of a ruler striving to keep harmony in a world drawn toward chaos. Among the many tales of Zeus's rule, none shines brighter than the story of Prometheus. It is a tale not of war or rebellion, but of one god's defiance born of compassion for humankind. Prometheus was no ordinary being. He was a titan, older than Zeus and the Olympians. Yet unlike most titans, he had sided with Zeus during the Great Titanomachy. For his loyalty, he was spared punishment and allowed to walk freely among gods and mortals. His name meant forethought, for he could see the hidden consequences of every choice. When the gods debated the fate of humankind, Zeus wished mortals to remain weak and dependent. He feared that too much power would lead mortals to arrogance and imbalance. But Prometheus saw mortals differently. He admired their resilience, their dreams, and their hunger to shape the world. He believed knowledge could lift them from despair and give them hope. So Prometheus resolved to grant them a gift no mortal had known before: fire. Fire was more than flame. It was warmth, protection, and the spark of knowledge. With fire, mortals could cook food, forge tools, and chase away the dark. But fire also brought independence, and independence meant the courage to question the gods. Prometheus stole a spark from the chariot of the sun and carried it to earth. He placed it in mortal hands, and for the first time, flames danced against the night. Mankind was no longer helpless. They had power to shape their destiny. When Zeus saw fire glowing on earth, his heart filled with anger. It was not the fire itself, but what it represented that troubled him. Fire gave mortals strength, courage, and less fear of the gods above. Zeus feared the fragile line between reverence and arrogance had been crossed. To him, Prometheus had not just defied authority, he had broken the balance of creation. Prometheus knew Zeus's wrath would be fierce, but he accepted the cost. For in giving fire, he had given humankind a future. Mortals now had the means to build, dream, and live beyond Olympus's will. Prometheus became a symbol of sacrifice, bearing wrath so mankind could rise. Though Zeus thundered against him, the fire continued to burn on earth. This myth is not of destruction, but of tension between authority and freedom. It reminds us that great gifts often demand great sacrifice. Even Zeus, king of gods, could not silence the spark once it was lit. In every flame's glow, the echo of Prometheus's defiance still lingers. Mortals remember the Titan who dared to gift them fire, and Zeus remembers that even among gods, there were those who would defy his will. Among all tales of Zeus's power, none strikes deeper than the story of the Great Flood. It is a story not of fire or thunder, but of water, an overwhelming tide that reshaped the world. After Prometheus gave fire, mortals flourished, building towns, farms, and strong shelters. With fire, they found hope, and their lives no longer depended only on Olympus. But with growth came arrogance. Mortals forgot reverence and boasted of their own strength. Temples stood empty, and prayers grew faint. As pride replaced gratitude, Zeus looked down and saw a world drifting from respect, a dangerous imbalance. He chose to cleanse the earth, not with fire or thunder, but with endless water. Water gives life, yet it can also take it away without mercy. Prometheus, still caring for mortals, whispered a warning to his son, Deucalion. With his wife, Pyrrha, Deucalion built an ark strong enough to withstand the storm. Then the heavens opened, and rain poured without end upon the earth. Rivers overflowed, seas rose, and mountains became small islands in the flood. The world disappeared beneath waves, swept away by Zeus's unrelenting will. For days and nights the waters rose, drowning nearly all life. Only Deucalion and Pyrrha endured, carried upon the waves by foresight and faith. At last, the storm ceased, and their ark came to rest on Mount Parnassus. Slowly, the waters receded, revealing a world washed clean and silent. But they were alone, sorrowful, wondering how to restore humankind. They sought guidance, and an oracle answered with a riddle. Cover your heads and cast the bones of your mother behind you. They pondered, and wisdom revealed its truth. Mother was earth. Her bones were stones. They lifted stones and cast them behind their backs with reverence. From Deucalion's stones arose men, and from Pyrrha's stones arose women. Humanity was reborn, not in punishment, but in a second chance. The Great Flood was not to end mankind, but to restore humility. Zeus destroyed arrogance, but left behind hope for a new beginning. This myth teaches that growth without gratitude leads to downfall. Power without humility always ends in ruin. And yet, even in wrath, the gods left a path to rebuild. The flood became both punishment and lesson, a chance to honor balance. As the waters receded, they left behind more than a cleansed earth. They left memory that the world rests on fragile balance, watched by Zeus. Not all defiance against Zeus came from gods or titans. Some arose from mortal kings, blinded by pride and ambition. Among them was Lycaon, ruler of Arcadia, whose tale endures as a warning. Lycaon was powerful and wealthy, and his people prospered under his reign. But with power came pride, and pride tempted him to test even the gods. One day Zeus descended in disguise, appearing as a weary traveler. He wandered among mortals, observing their reverence or their carelessness. At last, he came to Lycaon's palace, filled with feasts and song. The king welcomed him, but suspicion grew. Was this traveler truly Zeus? Rumors told of gods walking among mortals, and Lycaon's pride stirred. Instead of offering reverence, he chose to test his guest. Arrogance whispered, urging him to mock the god in disguise. So he devised a plan, one both reckless and unthinkable. At the feast, he prepared food, but laced it with human flesh. He believed Zeus could be deceived, proving mortals clever and bold. But Zeus was not blind. Even in mortal form, he saw the deception before the first bite touched his lips. In that moment, Zeus cast off his disguise. The air trembled, and his eyes blazed with divine power. The hall filled with fear, as mortals realized their king's folly. Lycaon's arrogance had not revealed cleverness, but his downfall. To test a god is not wisdom, it is ruinous pride. Zeus's wrath was swift, not cruel but just. He transformed Lycaon into a wolf, his spirit twisted by savagery. The once proud king now roamed the mountains, howling in despair. His cries echoed as warnings to mortals who might dare defy the gods. Arcadia too felt the weight of his arrogance. The people trembled, for their ruler had brought ruin upon them. They rebuilt temples, lifted prayers, and remembered reverence once more. The tale is not only about punishment, but about humility. Kings may hold power, but before gods they remain fragile mortals. Lycaon's pride became his undoing, a lesson carved in myth. Zeus's wrath here was not destruction, but a call to balance. The wolf's howl became a reminder carried by the wind. It urged mortals never to forget respect for the divine order. And so, the story of Lycaon endures through time. It whispers that the line between reverence and arrogance is thin, and those who cross it learn that the Thunderer does not sleep. Zeus was feared and revered, yet even on Olympus his rule was not without challenge. Among the gods, pride burned bright, and none burned brighter than Hera, his queen. Hera was goddess of marriage, wife to Zeus, and often his greatest rival. She grew weary of his dominance, of his thunder that silenced every voice. In her heart, a quiet rebellion took root. Fueled by pride and resolve, she whispered to allies, seeking those who also bristled under Zeus's command. Together, they conspired to bring the Thunderer low, if only for a moment. One night, when Zeus rested, their plan unfolded in shadows and silence. Hephaestus had forged chains, strong and gleaming, fit even to bind a god. With cunning, they wrapped Zeus in bonds, trapping the king of Olympus. The palace trembled not with storms, but with the daring of rebellion. Hera stood tall, declaring his rule harsh and unjust, claiming gods could be free. For once, Zeus was not master of thunder, but prisoner of pride. Yet the chains of Olympus could not hold forever. For Zeus had allies too. Briareus, the 100-handed giant, came to his side in loyalty and strength. With his countless arms, he broke the chains, and Zeus rose in fury. Thunder rolled across Olympus as the Thunderer reclaimed his throne. Hera trembled, for she knew his wrath was a storm not easily calmed. But Zeus did not strike her down, though vengeance burned within his gaze. Instead, he taught a lesson that echoed across time and myth. Some say he hung her in golden chains between heaven and earth. Others say he bound her in storms until her spirit bent. However told, the meaning was always the same: Defiance has a price. Yet Hera's place as queen remained, her power undiminished by punishment. Their union endured, stormy yet unbroken, a mirror of power and strife. Hera's rebellion was not in vain, for it showed even gods resist authority. It proved power is not only thunder, but balance between command and respect. The tale of Hera's rebellion endures because it feels profoundly human. It whispers that even the mighty can be bound, if only for a moment, and it reminds us that even storms must yield to balance in the end. Among the tales of defiance against Zeus, none burns brighter than the story of Prometheus. Prometheus was a titan, yet unlike many, he was known for his cunning and foresight. He had once aided Zeus in the Titan War, but his heart leaned toward mortals. Mankind, in the early days, lived fragile lives, shivering in cold and hunger. Zeus decreed they should remain weak, forever beneath the gods, bound by frailty. But Prometheus saw potential in them, sparks waiting to be kindled into greatness. He believed mortals deserved more than struggle. They deserved the power of fire. Zeus forbade it, declaring fire divine, too dangerous for mortal hands. But Prometheus's compassion was stronger than fear of Zeus's thunder. One night, he ascended Olympus, bold and silent in his purpose. From the eternal hearth, he stole a single ember, glowing with divine flame. He hid it inside a hollow reed, carrying it down from the heavens. When mortals received it, fire blazed for the first time on earth. They gathered around its glow, marveling at warmth and light in the dark. With fire, they cooked, forged, built, and began the climb toward civilization. But Zeus looked down and saw flames spreading across the mortal world. His fury shook Olympus, for he knew who had defied his will. Prometheus was summoned, yet he did not cower or repent. He declared mortals had the right to thrive, not just to crawl. It was not arrogance, but compassion. But Zeus saw only defiance, and so his wrath fell swift and unyielding upon the Titan. Prometheus was bound in chains upon a desolate, windswept mountain. There he suffered endlessly, a punishment meant to echo through time. Yet even in torment, his sacrifice endured, for fire still burned on earth. Mortals thrived, their spark alive, their flame growing brighter each day. Prometheus became a symbol of sacrifice, courage, and the cost of defiance. Zeus's punishment could not undo the gift, nor dim its light. The ember had changed the world, and mankind would never be the same. Perhaps even Zeus knew. Deep within, the flame could never be quenched. For the fire of Prometheus was more than heat, it was hope itself. Not all who defied Zeus were mighty kings or ancient titans of legend. Some were mortals whose arrogance drove them to rival the gods themselves. Among them was Salmoneus, a mortal king remembered for his folly. He ruled a city in Greece, respected by his people for his strength. But respect was not enough for him. He hungered for worship. He looked to the sky and saw Zeus commanding thunder and lightning, and he thought, why should Zeus alone hold such glory? Salmoneus built a great bridge of bronze for his deception. Upon it he drove his chariot, hooves pounding, wheels clashing loud. The sound roared like thunder, echoing as if he commanded storms. He hurled torches into the air, pretending they were bolts of lightning. He declared himself Zeus and demanded his people worship him. Some bowed in fear, others in confusion, unsure of the truth. But the true Zeus was not blind to this mocking pride. From Olympus, he watched the mortal daring to steal his glory. His fury burned brighter than any flame Salmoneus could conjure. Zeus descended in a storm, lightning splitting the darkened sky. Thunder rolled, shaking the bronze bridge beneath the king's chariot. The people saw the difference between divine fire and mortal trickery. Salmoneus's pride faltered, and his illusion shattered into dust. For what is a torch beside the lightning of the heavens? What is a chariot's roar beside the true voice of the sky? Zeus's wrath fell swift and undeniable, humbling the arrogant king. The bridge broke, the torches died, and the people saw the truth. Their ruler was not a god, but a mortal blinded by pride. Some say Zeus destroyed him outright, erasing his false glory forever. Others say his name was cursed, remembered only for foolishness. Either way, his fate became a timeless warning for mortals. The story is more than vengeance. It is a mirror of ambition. Mortals strive for greatness, but hubris turns reverence into downfall. Zeus restored balance, showing that divinity cannot be stolen. Salmoneus's chariot no longer roars, his torches no longer burn, yet his story whispers still. No mortal can steal the thunder of the gods. In Thebes there lived a queen named Niobe, her beauty and wealth praised by all. Her kingdom thrived, her rule respected, but her pride grew far greater still. Niobe was blessed with many children, more than most could ever dream. To her, they were proof of her greatness, symbols of her unmatched fortune. Each child seemed to elevate her above all others, even the divine. But soon her pride turned sharp, and her tongue dared to mock a goddess. The people of Thebes gathered yearly to honor Leto, mother of Apollo and Artemis. They offered prayers, garlands, and hymns, voices lifted in deep reverence. Niobe could not stand to see such praise given to a goddess above her. With scorn, she declared that Leto, with only 2 children, was unworthy. She, Niobe, had many sons and daughters. Why worship a mother of 2? Her words spread swiftly, like fire across fields dry with silence. The people trembled, knowing the gods do not ignore mortal arrogance. High on Olympus, Leto heard Niobe's bold and mocking words. Her heart burned with anger for herself and for her children. Apollo and Artemis, fierce twins, descended swiftly from the heavens. Their golden bows gleamed as they crossed the sky in silence. Thebes shook as storm clouds gathered, heavy with divine presence. The people watched in terror as the gods answered Niobe's pride. Her children, once her boast, now stood at the storm's center. Their laughter faded, joy extinguished, silence falling over her halls. The number she boasted no longer mattered. Loss had taken them. Niobe's voice, once proud, broke into cries of grief and despair. She had mocked a goddess and lost what was dearest to her. The people whispered, seeing her downfall, shaken by her fate. Overwhelmed with sorrow, Niobe fled to Mount Sipylus to mourn. Her tears fell without ceasing, unending as her broken heart. Zeus, moved by pity, transformed her into stone eternal. Yet even as stone, her tears flowed as a fountain forever. Her story became a warning, carved deep into the memory of time, not of cruelty, but of hubris, the danger of unchecked pride. Niobe believed herself greater than a goddess, and was undone. Her tears whispered across the ages. Humility binds the thread of fate. Some say her figure remains upon the mountain, weeping still. Thus the tale of Niobe endures, echoing Zeus's eternal order. Though it was Leto's children who struck, balance was his decree. And thunder became again the voice reminding mortals of their place. Not only kings and queens, but even heroes sometimes dared to defy Zeus. Bellerophon was such a hero. His courage great, his ambition greater still. He tamed Pegasus, the winged horse born of divine blood. With Pegasus, he soared across the skies and earned immortal glory. He defeated the Chimera, a beast of fire and terror. Songs were sung of his name, and people called him a savior. But pride whispered in his heart, louder than the songs of men. He dreamed not just of heroism, but of Olympus itself. Bellerophon looked at Pegasus and believed he could reach the gods. Why should Zeus alone rule the skies? He thought. Why should immortality belong only to the divine? One day, he rose higher and higher, past clouds and eagle's flight. The world below grew small as his ambition soared above measure. But Zeus, Lord of the skies, watched from his throne above. He saw not courage in Bellerophon's climb, but dangerous arrogance. And so Zeus acted, not with storms or lightning. He sent a gadfly to sting Pegasus mid-flight. The horse bucked, startled, and Bellerophon lost his grip. He fell from the heavens, cast down to the mortal earth. His body lived, but his spirit was broken and humbled. No longer sung in songs, he wandered the world in shame. Pegasus returned to Olympus, serving the gods forever. The hero who dared too much was left behind, forgotten. Zeus had not destroyed him, but left him with his pride. And pride, once broken, weighs heavier than death itself. The story is not only punishment, but a reminder of balance. Mortals may strive for greatness, but cannot claim the throne of gods. Courage becomes arrogance when ambition blinds the heart. Ambition becomes downfall when humility is forgotten. The wrath of Zeus is not always thunder and flame. Sometimes it is a quiet lesson, sharp and unforgettable. When we see Pegasus shining among the stars, we remember. The horse soars free, while the hero walks forgotten paths. Mortals may dream of Olympus, but only gods dwell there. Thus ends the tale of Bellerophon, who flew too high. His fall revealed the unyielding power of Zeus's eternal order. The line between mortal and god is sacred, never to be crossed.